Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you had a wonderful weekend and enjoyed the Super Bowl. So 5Q tape breakdown last week was here's a great example of how something we can say can be perceived negatively. And then we'll show you how to quickly fix it with a little empowering. So do you think the person that said this thing negatively, the advisor that said this thing negatively, thought he was saying something negative? That's right. No, they didn't. So how do we find out that we're doing those kind of things? What's the only way we can find out that we're doing those things? Tapes, that's right. And do I really care if you, hey, you've got the advantage of, and that nobody else in the industry has, which is Jeff or myself will listen to a tape and tell you how to get a lot better at your next meeting. And so, but you don't have to do that. If you don't want to do that, it's intimidating, or you don't like constructive criticism or whatever, you don't need to do that. But you should at least be taping to listen to yourself and listen for these kind of things, okay? And that's what the 5Q tape breakdown is great at doing, is helping you identify what you should be looking for, okay? So let's talk about some successful communication. This is the science of how not to choke under pressure. So the California Institute of Technology, Caltech, and the Journal for Social Cognitive Effective Neuroscience, they did a perform to win money experiment. So what they were doing is they said that if you do a certain task, you'll make money. You'll win some money. So if you do a certain task, you win some money. And what they found, and they did this with a multitude of different groups, it ended up that if you imagine that if you are already successful on the round, you will get to keep your money. But if you are unsuccessful, you'll have to give this money to the experimenter. Imagine how it would feel to lose this money. So what they're saying is you should not imagine, I hope I win this money. You should actually imagine that you have already won that money. It's already yours. It's already in your pocket. And if you lose, you'll have to give it back. Now, this seems like a weird thing. That what's the difference between the success of not, or just assuming that you're going to win it if it happens, and already imagine that you already have it, and if you win it, you're going to lose it. So am I speaking Greek here? Does everybody understand? Jeff, can you jump in there and maybe try to explain what I'm saying there? Maybe Jeff doesn't understand me.
No, I think it's clear what you're saying. I think it's perfectly clear.
Good. So this reframing means that the participants were performing in order to keep all the money, not to gain it. And it worked. All the participants, not just the most risk-averse or loss-averse, experienced less choking than the control group that didn't receive reappraisal training. So what that's saying, Daniel's saying that Coach Jimmy V did the same thing for the NCAA final in 1986. So this is an experiment that's been done over and over and over, and it does work. So how could we apply this to our meetings? How can we apply this to our meetings? Well, we should go in thinking that what? That we've already got this client. This client is already ours, and if we don't get them, we're going to lose them. So we should go in thinking this client is already ours, but if we don't do this stuff right, we will lose that client. Now, I know it seems like a weird, hey, a lot of this stuff that we talk about seems almost like new age or, weird stuff, but guess what? This weird stuff is not new age. It's what? Science. It's been researched. It's been it's been tested and tested and tested. It actually works based on science, not on some touchy-feely, crystal-wielding weirdo. This is real science that works. So you should go into your meeting thinking, I've already got this client. I just don't want anything. So I already have this client. The only thing that can happen is I can lose them if I don't do it right. Seems weird, but that's a great thing to do. One of our great advisors in Ohio and Kentucky basically told me that he found out, because he has a great in with AT&T, and he said that AT&T is going to be pushing thousands of people out with early retirement over the next year. So if you are in an area that has a lot of AT&T workers, guess what you should be doing? Getting a hold of the AT&T pension, because the great thing about this early retirement is they're giving the AT&T has a pension, and they're being given the option of whether they want to keep the pension or to monetize it and take the chunk of money. So you should get that. If you have a lot of AT&T workers in your area, you should be getting your hands on that pension document and becoming an expert at that. Because the great thing about this is if you become an expert on that pension, guess how much how well these people refer. See, they're all being forced out at the same time, or they're going to be forced out over the next 12 months. So when you are an expert on their pension and you do a great job for somebody, they're going to refer you to the next employee and the next employee and the next employee. So if you're in an area with AT&T, make sure you're getting your hands, or you have a client with AT&T, make sure you get your hands on that pension document and become an expert in that. And if you need help getting in front of those if that's the case, if you need help getting in front of those folks, give Jeff or myself a call, and we'll give you some ideas on how to get in front. But the best way is to leverage your current any clients that you currently have with AT&T. Warren Buffett and Bill Gates proved that quitting this one bad habit will make you more successful in life. Want to guess what that bad habit is? Kind of a very general bad habit, but what do you think that bad habit is? So somebody says, David says email, we got negative thinking, watching the markets daily. Well, I'll give you a hint. Email and watching the markets daily are certainly part of that. Multitasking, Kevin says, that's also part of it. Procrastination is part of it. So you're all giving me, distractions in general. I'll go along with that. So what they're saying is wasting your time. That's the biggest a bad habit that will make you more successful in life. Time is a factor when it comes to making sacrifices. As Warren Buffett famously said, it's the only thing you can't buy. I mean, I can buy anything I want, basically, but I can't buy time. He's absolutely right. In order to pursue hobbies with high returns, when you only have 24 hours a day, you must forego activities with low returns. So in order to pursue hobbies with high returns, there's only 24 hours in a day. That means you're going to have to forego activities with low returns. Should you watch another episode of your favorite Netflix show, or give up TV for 2 months so you can plant the garden you've always dreamed about? So actually, for 5 years, they're talking. Bill Gates talks about for 5 years he gave up TV. When he was in high school, he gave up TV, and guess what he did instead of TV for those 5 years? For high school and early college, guess what he did with all of his spare time? Close. Didn't build computers. He did something. Yes, programming, Kevin. He became an expert at the right, Dale. He became an expert in programming. All he did was program. Man, that sounds what? Brutal. That sounds horrible. What did it do for him? You know what? And by making it his hobby, guess what? It went from being boring and tedious to it became more and more fun. See, anytime you master something, what happens when to me, piano lessons would be boring and tedious. It would be terrible for me. I'm not a big musician. I'm not out into music. It would be terrible and tedious to take piano lessons. But once I mastered the piano, guess what? Would it be boring and tedious? It'd be fun as a son of a gun. So anytime you get really good at something, whatever is boring and tedious all of a sudden becomes fun. So they both say, so what does Warren Buffett do with his, see if how much people know about Warren Buffett. What does Warren Buffett do with his time off? What's his hobby? And he's convinced Bill Gates to get into this hobby as well. He's a world-class what player? Wow, you guys. I would have thought more. Yeah, I guess Warren Buffett's more of a hero to me than some people because I'm not getting the right answers. He's a huge bridge player. Oh, there's Michael's got it. Dale's got it. He's a huge bridge player. And guess what now Bill Gates is? Bridge. Why is he a big bridge player? What does bridge teach you? All sorts of thinking skills, strategy, right? Strategy. So making decisions isn't easy, but the good news is that we already do this innately. A 2009 study from the University of Adelaide School of Psychology found that people are far less willing to keep many options open when some have bigger rewards than others. So what you have to do is convince yourself that bridge, and I'm not saying bridge, I mean, I tried it, I can't do it. It's too, I'm not that a big game player. So but unless somebody convinced me, if Warren Buffett sat down with me and said, listen, if you learn to play bridge, I'll play with you every Saturday, or I'll play with you once a month, guess what I would magically be able to do? Play bridge. Because then the rewards would be higher than, to me, right now, the rewards of learning bridge are like, there's other ways for me to learn strategy than to play bridge. So, but what they're saying here is that you have to, the rewards have to be bigger. If you find that your hobbies or the way you're going to spend time, the rewards are bigger, it allows you to walk away from watching that extra 2 or 3 shows on Netflix. It allows you to walk away from wasting your time, whatever you're doing. So if the payoffs are unknown, however, so if you don't think about, what would I get out of learning to play bridge, or what would I get out of learning to program, or what would I get out of learning a new language, or what would I get out of learning to play piano? If it's not clear the rewards you're going to get for doing that, and the rewards aren't high enough, you're going to continue to do what? If you're not clear on what you're going to get from your new hobby, you're going to just continue to waste your time. That's right. You have to actually take the time to figure out the opportunity costs and gains of each to pursue each other. And I'll tell you, last week I talked to 2 advisors. Holy cow. Holy cow. Till and David both, and Ray, or in fact, 3. Till, Ray, and David all blew me out of the water. Because I'm used to guys having a pretty good handle. Like I said, more people know the 21-point checklist than I've ever known it in 18 years, in the last 2 years. So thank you for doing that. But generally when I say knowing it, have they mastered it? No, they know it well enough to use it pretty well with clients. But these 3 guys last week, they nailed it. They blew me out of the water on how well they knew the scripts. So they realized in their head that what? And it was apparent to me, they didn't spend 100 hours. They spent whatever the amount of hours they needed to master this stuff. And what happened in their minds? I don't know. I didn't ask them this, but I assume that they'd realize that the payoffs are going to be huge for knowing those scripts backwards and forwards. Here's Warren Buffett playing bridge. And actually now Bill Gates doesn't practice programming anymore. He actually plays bridge. And then both of them, guess what they said? Warren Buffett says Warren Buffett reads 8 hours a day. He reads 8 hours a day. How many of us read 8 hours a day? Now, he can afford it. He can afford to do that. We can't do that. But guess why he can do what he does? Because he is using how many people's geniuses? He's using all the books he reads is making him. He's borrowing their genius, and he's internalizing their genius. So you can still enjoy a mindless. And then Bill Gates said, don't get me wrong. For 5 years he didn't watch TV. Today, guess what? He does watch TV, but he does it how? Mindfully. Does he just turn on the TV and see what's on? Or does he say, I'm going to watch this show, and when the show's done, what does he do? Turns it off. Intentionally. That's right, Kevin. He intentionally watches. He says, I'm going to watch this show, I'm going to enjoy it, and when it's done, I'm going to be done. I'm going to watch this football game, but does he watch the 2 hours before the football game and the hour and a half after the football game, or he does what? He watches the football game. That's it. Turns it on for the football game and turns it off when it's done. So he intentionally watches. So you can still enjoy mindless joys of life. Go ahead, to be happy an hour. Binge on Netflix for an entire weekend. Go on a shopping spree if it'll make you feel better. Gates' break from TV and music only lasted 5 years. It's just a matter of cutting back on the less productive ones. And when you're feeling uninspired, remember the tunes of Kenny Rogers. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. In other words, if you're doing something and you're not really getting anything out of it, you're just wasting time or buying time or waiting to go to sleep that night, getting through the day just to the point I woke up, now I got to get through the day, and then basically, and then go to sleep at night. What am I going to do to fill my day? Is that living intentionally, guys? That is not living intentionally. You should be looking at what can make my life more rewarding, what can make my life more successful, what can make my life more happy, and not just go through life doing whatever comes, plops on your plate next. So that's if you want to have the kind of success that Warren Buffett and Bill Gates had. And do you think that that's unusual just to Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, or if we looked at any successful person, would they be similar? Yeah, they're going to be very similar to that. Here's a little, we just had the Super Bowl yesterday. Can I ask you guys a question? I want everybody to answer this. If you could bet on the Super Bowl, who would win the Super Bowl after the Super Bowl was done, how much money would you bet? Yeah, would you take out a mortgage on your house? Okay, let me rephrase that. If you could bet, so everybody's saying, yeah, they would. They'd bet all their money. They'd take a mortgage. They would do whatever. They scrounge up any money they could to bet on it. Now, what if you could bet on the Super Bowl after the Super Bowl was done, but you'd only win half the amount of money that you would have otherwise won? How many would do that? So answer that one. Okay, so what's the analogy I'm doing here, guys? The FIA. So that's a little, if you want to get somebody's attention, guess what? That's a great way to get somebody's attention, because how many people would say no to, or how many people would say they'd bet all the money they have? Everybody. You'd be a nutcase. If I could bet on something after it was finished, would I care if I was making all the money or not? No, I'd be happy if it were, heck, give me 10%. Would I do that, guys? Yeah, because it's what? Free money. Because you're guaranteed to what? How many bets would you make if you were guaranteed to win? I don't care what you would win. I don't care if it was 1%. How many bets would you make if you could be guaranteed to win every single time and you're only making 1%? As many as I could, yeah. So do you see this? Use this analogy, because how many people would get this analogy? And I don't care if it's a Super Bowl. Use whatever you want. Make sense? Well, I hope it's not most. How many people would get that? How many people would get that analogy to say, listen, if we could bet on flipping this coin after I flip this coin, how much money would you bet? If you could bet on whether it was going to be heads or tails after I flipped the coin and showed you the coin, how much money would you bet? So everyone, and not most, everybody would get that, wouldn't they? Cool. So what is the purpose of a workshop? This is the main topic for today's call. What is the purpose of a workshop? To get appointments, right? To get appointments. Is it to sell them some sort of, is it to sell them, for example, when we talk about the, in the healthcare wealth and income, are we selling them a lifelong term care hybrid? Is that the purpose of the workshop? No, it's just to get an appointment. We show concepts to get them to come in, because then they realize, I should come in because there's things that I don't know about. But whatever we're showing at the seminar or the workshop is not about selling that thing. It's simply about letting them know there's things I don't know about. I should talk more to this guy. So the purpose is to get appointments. So I want to talk about how we can get more appointments. So we look at our evaluation form. And I used to, when I was doing workshops, I would get this all the time. Great presentation, best presentation I've been to. I've never been, I go to these things all the time, and this is by far the best presentation I've ever been to. What did I know if that's what they said on this evaluation form? That I was going to get lots of appointments or not very many appointments? David's got it. Kevin's got it. So yeah, most of you are getting it right. A few of you are not getting it right. I knew if I saw that, I was not going to get very many appointments. Not going to get very many appointments. Now, why was that the case? Because what they're saying is it was a great show. It was a great use of my time. You entertained me, found out a bunch of stuff. It was fun to come to. I don't want a great presentation. I want them to say, if I read, wow, I did not know that this worked this way, or wow, this is information I needed. Now, how many appointments did I know I was going to get? If they were answering that way, a lot, right? A lot. So when I went from presenting, now the reason I presented is I'm naturally a shy person, especially back 10. Well, I was afraid to death to do group presentations back when I was doing this in the late 90s or early 2000s. And so I would make up for my shyness by coming up with a different persona and being over the top and being very, I put on you've probably heard a lot of actors are actually shy, but when they're in front of the camera, they become a different person. That's kind of what happened to me. So I was presenting to people. I did not want interaction. I did not want them to talk to me because then I would be off the kilter. I just wanted to present it, and I practiced it, and I polished it, and it was a great presentation. But if I'm practicing and polishing the presentation, guess what I'm not doing? Who's not involved? If I'm practicing and polishing the presentation, who's not involved with that? Interacting, right. It's not interacting. And I learned that if I really want to start winning and getting a lot more appointments, I needed to start interacting to win, because I was failing because my appointment ratio was only 20. The year I made $1 million in private production doing seminars, my appointment ratio was only 24%. That's not very good. Now, I was awesome. My closing ratio was 95% with people once I got them in the office, but it was only 24% when they came to the events. So by showing people or having people concentrate on interacting versus the presentation, because given a choice between interacting and the presentation, what do you think I would say you should be awesome at? So put I if you think interaction and P if you think presentation. Yeah, it's I, interacting. And when I listen to seminars, when you send me to seminars, guess what I find out everybody's doing? Presenting. Yeah. So when I've taught guys to go from presenting to interacting, I've seen them go from 20 to 30% in appointment ratios to 80% plus in 80% plus in appointments. Now, why? Why is that happening? Because when they come to the presentation, how guarded are people? How do they view you when they come to these presentations? I mean, I laugh at all these ARP and whatever organization is saying that salespeople are preying on these poor retirees by doing these free lunch seminars and tricking them. How many people are tricked the fact that you are doing these seminars to sell them something? How many people are tricked? No, nobody is. When they come to see you, this is what they think. I see salespeople. So how guarded are they going to be? Super guarded. Super guarded. So the analogy I use to go from getting 20 to 30% appointment ratios to 80% appointment ratios, and this works every single time when you do it this way, is this. Let's say I go to a party. I go to a party and the host meets me at the door and says, "Hey, Mike, Michelle, thanks for coming. The beer's over there, the pool's in the back, and we got music going. Have a great time." And so 2 hours go by, 3 hours go by, and the food is good, and the beer is good, and the music is good, and we see the host flitting around, making sure the beer is filled and making sure the food is filled and all of that, and then we go home. How do we feel about that host and that party? That was a what? What kind of a party? Great party. Fun. Yeah, it was great. We leave feeling good about everything, right? Now, so it wasn't bad. So it was just like they said, great presentation. That was a great what? Great party. Had fun. Now, I go to another party, and the host meets us at the door and says, "Hey, Mike, Michelle, thanks for coming in. Beer's over there. Food's over there. Enjoy the music. Have a great time today." And an hour goes by, and then the host sees us and says, "Oh, Mike and Michelle, hey, have you tried the new dip? I mean, we had Some of our neighbors brought the dip. It's awesome. You should go over there and try it. Say, oh, we'll do that. Thanks, Bob. So then we go try the dip, and then about an hour later, he says, hey, Mike and Michelle, I heard that your son's going to St. Thomas. I have a buddy at St. Thomas who's a professor. We should get him together to have lunch. I said, you do that? Yeah, I'll do that. Hey, you know what? I'll email you, and then we'll get those two together. Well, thanks. That's awesome. Oh, shoot. Do you mind? My wife's trying to flag me down. She must be out of something. Do you mind if I go take care of it? Oh, no, Bob. Go ahead. How much time did he spend with me for those two interactions? 2 minutes at most, right? 1 minute and 1 minute. And then, again, another hour goes by. Hey, Mike and Michelle, you're not using the pool back. Why aren't you using the pool? Oh, we didn't bring the swimsuits. Oh, we got extra swimsuits. Oh, no, you don't want to see my fish white bodies. No, well, here, you know what we'll do? I'll email you, and you guys can come over sometime, and we'll just have a fun together. You and my wife, and me and my wife, and you two. How's that sound? Oh, that'd be great. Super. We'd really just. Oh, wait. Do you mind? It looks like the Johnsons are getting ready to leave. Do you mind if I go say bye to them? No, go ahead. Again, how much time did he spend with me? Lots or a minute? Now when I go home, I think great party, but I also think what? I'm special, right, David? Great host, and I'm special. He likes me. He likes me. That host likes me. How much time out of 3 hours? So we got 180 minutes. How many minutes did he spend with me? 90% of the time or 1% of the time? 1% of the time, but how different do I feel about that host? Not about the party. Both parties were great. Both parties were great, just like both presentations were great. But in one party, I felt I love I love the party, or I love the guy. No, I love the party. But the second one, I loved what? The guy, because he made me feel important, right, Kevin? He made me feel important. So when you do workshops, what do you have to do? How do you do that? So do you get my analogy then? When I got great presentation, is the same as what? Great party. But was there any connection? No connection. No connection. So how do I do this? Well, I'm going to go through the point by point on how you create that connection, okay? And it drives me bananas when I hear this, and guys still do this. When they're doing a seminar, they'll have their assistant check the person in. And I'm saying, what are you doing during that time? Well, I don't come in until right before the presentation. Then they march in and they put their hands on their hips and say, "Hi, I'm here to present today." So the first time that people really get a sense of who the guy is when? Right at the beginning of the presentation. Or even worse, they sit up there fiddling with the presentation with their back turned to the audience, ignoring everybody as they come in. Or they're over coking and joking with somebody in the corner, ignoring everybody when they come in. Guys, how do people feel if you completely ignore them when they come in? How would you feel if the host of the party completely ignored you when you came to the party? Do you have so you're not even starting neutral with these people. What's happening? Are these people in the audience? You're not even neutral. They're what? They're already looking to what? Yeah, take you down a notch. So when they come in, guess what? You should already have. Don't be fiddling with your presentation. Get there early and make sure the presentation is what? Working, okay? So that you can greet people when they come in, okay? So how do you greet people? Do you stand at the table as they're checking in and say, "Hi, I'm Mike, I'm going to present today"? Do you stand at the table when they're checking in, getting their name tags, and get right in their face and say, "Hi, I'm Mike, I'm presenting today"? Is that how you greet people? No. You let them come in. You let them check in at the front desk, and then when they come to sit down, you go over and greet them at that point. You greet them at that point. And I always did this. When they're sitting at the table, I would always kneel or squat down. Now, if you can't do that, that's okay. Then just sit down next to them. What's the importance of squatting down, or if you can, or at least sitting down next to them? What's the importance of that? Eye to eye, that's right. Because if instead you lean over the top of them, what is that saying? Psychologically, I know this is, it seems like this is new age BS, but it's not. They have proven over and over and over again. When a waitress squats down and gets below eye level, what happens to her tips? They go up. When a waitress sits in the booth eye to eye, what happens to the tip? They go up. This is science, guys. So when I'm greeting people, I'm going to squat down if I can get below their eye level, or if I can't do that, at least sit at their level and have a conversation with them. And what do? I say, hey, thanks for coming. I'm Mike. I'm going to be presenting today, and it looks like you're Mary. Bob, nice to meet you. Was there anything in particular that you want to make sure I cover today, based on the invitation? Oh, you know what? That's great. We are going to cover that. I appreciate you bringing that up, because that's one of the things we're going to cover. Well, again, appreciate you coming. Hope you enjoy yourself, and you think it was a good use of your time. Thanks again. And then I get up and do what? Move to the next person. If there's no next person there, I'll spend what? More time. The best investment of time prior to the workshop is what? Not preparing for the workshop. You should already be done setting up your projector and everything else before anybody walks in. It's greeting people. Now, if you've done that, how do people go into the presentation? Looking at you negatively or looking at you positively? Yeah, nice guy, upbeat. They already know you a little bit. That's all of that stuff is right. So does that make sense? And when I hear guys say that they're not doing that, I'm like, dude, you've already what? You're not even, you're backwards. If you do this, though, guess what? You've already have the door open. You have your big toe in the door to getting an appointment already. Make sense? Now, guess how much I told them about how great I was at the beginning? Because when I hear guys start at the presentation, hi, I'm Mike Kastelnick. I'm a financial advisor here in this area, and I'm a CFP, and I've been doing this for 15 years, and I'm also a certified retirement specialist, and I'm blah, 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 blah. Guess how much I like that when I hear that? Not. Why did they come? Now, you're all getting that answer right. You don't like it, you don't like it, you don't like it. But if you've ever been to a seminar, if you ever looked at a seminar, what do they tell you to do the first 2 or 3 minutes? That. Don't do that. They came there for the information. So when you start the presentation, it should all, from the first second, it should all be about what? Them. That's right. Good job. Them. Now, I do want to brag, but just like when we brag in the 21-point checklist about doing the survivor's guide, about doing the power of attorney and the medical power of attorney and the quality of life directive, when we brag about all that stuff, do we ever brag when we do it? Yeah, we apologize, and we still are bragging about what we do, but we do it in the form of an apology. I do have to have them say, wow, this guy is doing stuff nobody else is doing. Wow, this guy is different. But if it comes across as bragging, we move backwards. So I still want to brag, but when we do the 20-point checklist, we do it in the form of an apology. I'm sorry for covering this boring stuff. I know you're probably scratching your head. Why are we wasting time on this? We want to get to the sexy stuff, but can I explain why I do this and see if because I scratch my head at times too, because I don't get paid to do this. Do you mind if I share why I do this sometimes, cover this with people? And you go into why, and then they say, oh, no, that makes total sense. You'd be a bad advisor if you didn't do that. That's what we do with the 20-point checklist. So how do we brag when it comes to, about our qualifications when it comes to a seminar? How do you think we do that? How do we brag about our qualifications when it comes to a seminar? I still want to brag about it. I do it in the pre-presentation. So I have pictures of me and my family up there. Why do I have pictures of me and my family up there? Normal guy, right? Normal guy. He's a dad. He's a husband. There's all smiling people. Here's an organization I belong to. What I have is these things are on autoplay. So when people come in, I'm going and greeting them, squatting down, greeting them, asking them, what they came for, assuring them we're going to cover that, and just being a big smiley face. And then when I move to somebody else, what are they generally going to do? They're going to look at the screen. And on the screen, they're going to see all these things. So do I have to brag about it, or is it just right up there on the screen? So you can see this is on autoplay right now. I'm not even pressing the button. This is on autoplay. So I'm going to let them look at it for 8-10 seconds. And they're going to see that I belong to the Society of Certified Senior Advisors. I'm a member of the Institute of Elder Planning Studies. So it's just flipping through. And then I have some more pictures of me and my family. And then I'm a Better Business Bureau. And then, so if I do all this on the screen, guess what I don't have to do? I don't have to say it. I don't have to say it when I start the presentation. It's already been said. So again, I'm flipping through this faster now because on autoplay, it's about 10 seconds per slide. And then when it gets to the end, guess what it does? Goes right back. Goes right back. So that's how you brag, which saves you a ton of time, or saves you 3-4 minutes, and certainly saves you from seeming like a jackass bragging about yourself, and allows you to get right into the presentation. But do they still get a sense of who you are and your qualifications if you have that pre-playing before the presentation? Yes. Does that all make sense to you? Because when I start the presentation, I want to wake the audience up by talking about bold statements or surprising facts or shocking statistics. I want to give their brain a kick and say, this is going to be fun, and I want to know more about what the information this guy has. I don't want them saying, Jesus, every guy I see is always talking about how much experience he has and how many qualifications he has and blah, 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 blah. Boring. I want them to be engaged from the get-go. Just like anything else, when do people make their first impressions? Over the first half hour, over the first few seconds, first 30 seconds. So I've had the first 30 seconds I've met with them is sitting down with them or squatting down, greeting them, creating a relationship. And then when I start the presentation, I want that first 10 seconds to be what? A bold statement, a surprising fact, a shocking statistic, a joke that applies, not a crappy joke, but a joke that applies to what we're talking about today. Something that grabs their attention from the beginning. I don't want them already checking out when I'm going through my the first 2 or 3 minutes because I'm going through my qualifications. And how many people are checking out? If you're spending the first 2 or 3 minutes going through your qualifications, how many people are paying rapt attention to that, and how many people are checking out? So put A's if you think you got their attention, and C if you think they're checking out. Yeah, they're checking out. I don't want them to. Is that really what I want to do? That's the first impression I want, is to be checking out? No, I want to jump right in. So does that make sense? Now, as I said earlier, I don't want to be a great presenter to all these people. Instead, I want them to feel I'm talking to them one-on-one. One-on-one, one-on-one. For those of you that have coached with me prior to your presentations, what do I tell you need to do? You need to be in a room, and should you practice it in your head or you practice it out loud? In your head or out loud? It has to be out loud. Has to be out loud. Practicing it in your head is worthless. And I know it seems like you're psycho when you're doing this and when you're in a room all by yourself and people hear you talking all to yourself, but that's the way you got to do it. And what do I tell you should have scattered throughout the room? These things. Name tags. So I'm going to have 15, 20 name tags scattered throughout the room. And as I'm practicing the presentation, I'm going to say, so why is healthcare so important? That's right, Nancy. That's right. And say that again, Nancy. Yeah, that's right. Because that's the thing that can sink our retirement. You got it, Nancy. Good job. And then that's how I practice. Now, it's Nancy in the room. That's me practicing. It's Nancy in the room. No, I looked around the room, saw a name tag, said Nancy, and I'm acting as if she is really there. How many times did I use her name? Yeah, in my head, she's there. How many times did I use her name right there? 2, 3 times. 4 times, yeah. So Guess what I mean? If that's how, when I'm listening to a tape of somebody practicing for a presentation, guess what I should be hearing twice a minute? Guess what I should be hearing twice a minute? Names, names, names. Is the presentation script more important or hearing individual names more important when I hear somebody practicing the script? Individual names. And when I listen to people practicing, guess how many names I hear? I'll talk to the guy and I'll say, so how many, are you getting good at calling people by names? Yeah, I think I am. Or I'll listen to or somebody will send me a tape of a presentation and say, are you calling people by names? Yeah, I am. I called a lot of people by names. And I listen to it and 5 minutes will go by and I don't hear a name. So they'll use a name 3-4 times in an hour and they think that's what? Awesome. No. Well, it is awesome. With who? Those 3 or 4 people. 3 or 4 people. But everybody else felt what? Ignored. So when I'm practicing the presentation, I'm looking around and I'm calling on, now do I call them, here's an important point. Do I call up and say, so Noreen, why is healthcare so important? Do I ever do that? No, because that will put her on the spot, may have her get the deer in the headlights syndrome and have her freeze, and then she feels bad. Instead, I ask questions. I try to make the questions as easy as possible, and then I look to who answered the question. And normally you're going to get 3 or 4 people answer the question, so I'm going to start to spread it around, and I'm not going to say, that's right, Noreen, that's right, Noreen, that's right, Noreen. I'm going to look for somebody else who's answering the question right, too, and I'll go ahead and call on Catherine that time and say, that's right, Catherine, you nailed it. And then, right, you're right, Rula. You're right, Carolyn. So I'll be calling on, I want to move that around, but I don't ask them the question. I look for people answering the questions and try to spread those Vada boys, those Gotzes, to all sorts of people in the room. And then do I just say, that a boy, Catherine? Or to say, that's right, Catherine, and why is that the case? You know what? I hadn't even thought of that. You got that right, Catherine. Holy cow, do you mind if I bring that up the next time we do a workshop? Because that's a point I hadn't even thought about. Thanks, Catherine. Now, what does she think? What is she thinking right now when I do that? If that was really her in a presentation, what's happening in her head right now? I'm smart, and we like people who what? Make us feel smart. This guy gets me. This guy likes me. He makes me feel good. And why is that important, guys? What's the important? What are we trying to do with this seminar? Get more appointments. Does that make sense? So do you think the script is more important or using people's names and having a minute conversations with them? So, and how much time did I spend with Catherine there in reality, if she was there? A minute? But remember what we said, a minute can be how important? Unbelievably important to making them think, I like Mike, this guy is great. I want to spend more time with him. See, liking comes down to 3 things. People like people who are similar. So does Catherine think I'm similar? If I'd really done that with Catherine in a real meeting, did I tell her I was similar to her by Gotzinger? Did I compliment her? Am I cooperating with her? These are all things that are making her like me. And people work with people they like. Your smile is your logo. Your personality is your business card. How you leave others feeling with an interaction becomes your trademark. People do business with people who make them feel special. What have I done for Catherine if that's the case? If I did that with her in a real meeting? I made her feel special. When guys have done this, believe me, I thought the most you'd ever get, and because I hear guys say, yeah, seminars are worn out. Yeah, they're all tire kickers and plate lickers, blah, blah, blah. Dudes, the way you turn tire kickers and plate lickers into appointments at a seminar is what? Make them feel special, make them feel want to be around you. You heard Jeff at training, you may have remembered, Jeff talked about this guy, Earl Bronstein. He wrote a book on about going to as many free lunches as he could during the year. His goal is to go to 1 a year. He wanted to go to 365 free lunches in the state of Florida in a year. That was his goal. Now, he only made it to about 265, I think it's 265 free lunches. Now, here's the funny thing about this. He went to 265 free lunches, but guess what happened twice? Was he planning on doing any business with any of these guys, or was his goal simply to write a book about free lunches and go to as many as possible? Can you be any more of a tire kicker and a plate licker than that guy? Yay or nay? No, you can't be. You can't be any more of a plate licker than a guy like that, right? Well, guess what happened twice out of the 265 that he went to? He made appointments, and he bought twice. He bought twice. So what does that say about the 263 versus the 2? 263 were amateurs, and 2 were what? Professionals. And the way you're a professional at an event is not to be a great presenter, because you know what? There are lots of guys in this industry that do great presentations that struggle to get above 33% appointment ratios. The way you get appointments is what? Well, I'll give you an example. One of when a guy tells me his projector broke, and he actually his projector broke and he had to wing it, is that guy going to make a lot of appointments or less appointments, you think? More. They always make more. They always make more appointments. In fact, they almost get 100% appointment ratios. And I tell them, if only we could have the projector break every single time. You can't do that, because what if somebody comes to a seminar twice and you say, this guy is scamming you because he always pretends like his projector breaks. We can't do that. But if we could, I would. Because that broken projector required the guy to do what? Had nothing to do with people feeling bad for him. No. It had to do, yes, he had to turn it from a presentation into a conversation. He had to talk with the group. He had to interact with the group. That's why. Because when you're doing a presentation, are you interacting with the group? No. So what's the one thing you should pull from this? And again, I've had guys go, I never thought in the world anybody could get a 80% to 100% appointments at a seminar. That to me was not even a possibility. But when I've started to teach guys to do it this way, having individual conversations with people and giving them guts when they give the right answers, patting them on the back, we get regularly, people get 80%, even 100% appointment ratios when they do it that way. And it has nothing to do with the presentation. It has to do with the fact that they're interacting with folks. You know, and the great thing about that is when you can do that, guess what you can do? If you've had great interactions with Bob in the audience, and then Bob doesn't want an appointment, guess what it allows me to do? Are you kidding me, Bob? You are the one that said that you should be meeting with me to get this thing fixed. What happened? What did I do wrong between the time you told me that twice and this? Why aren't you going to make an appointment? Are you afraid of me, Bob? Now, can I do that with Bob if he's my buddy? Yes. Can I do that with Bob if that's the first time I've said his name, is when I'm trying to get an appointment? No. So by being friendly with everybody individually on a first name basis, you know, guys, you've heard, I know that guy on a first name basis. That means what? You have a what? A relationship with them. If I have a relationship, that means I can lean on them a little bit harder to get an appointment. Does this make sense to you? So it's not the keywords and tricky phrases in the presentation. It's having individual conversations. And the more, I guarantee you, and Jeff, can you validate this? The more you hear the advisor saying people's names, what do you know is going to happen when he talks about the appointment ratio?
Oh, it's going to go up for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
The more interactive you can make it, absolutely, the more appointments you're going to get.
And also when you're doing that, Jeff, can you have the attitude, I hate these people, they're all here for plate lickers and tire lickers, all they're doing is wasting my time, I don't even know why I'm doing seminars. Can you have that kind of attitude when you go in there looking to call them all by first names?
No, that just kind of melts away.
Melts away. Because if you go in there with that kind of attitude, and I've talked to guys with that kind of attitude, and guess what happens to their appointment ratios? If you go in there thinking everybody's a tire kicker and a plate licker, can you hide that, guys? They're going to see it. They're going to see it. But when you go in there looking to have a lot of mini conversations with people because you're interested in people, you're interested in what they had to say. You want to give them little pats on the back for being having good ideas and having great answers. When you go in there like that, that's catchy. That's catchy. People will catch that enthusiasm. They will catch that friendliness. They will catch that likability. And when you're enthusiastic and you're passionate and you're having fun and they like you, what happens to your appointment ratios? Goes up. And so it has very little. Yeah, you got to know what you're going to say at a slide, but or that you're going to at least be able to say something at a slide. But what you say is not nearly as important as interacting with somebody. And then the next time you're going to interact with somebody else, and the next little slide you're going to interact with somebody else, and the next slide you're going to interact with somebody else, and somebody else, and somebody else. And I'm going to use every person's name in that room one time or as many times as I can pack it into that hour. Yep. Does that make sense to you guys? Doing a great presentation is not that hard. Oh, that's a great question. Paul's asking, how do you make sure one person in the audience is not speaking too much, is being the entire focus? That's a great question because I didn't cover this. The other thing you want to do is how do we get people answering questions early in the presentation? How do we get people, make sure that everybody's going to want to be answering questions early in the presentation? What do we do? Give away gifts, prizes. That's right, Kevin. Give them gifts. And those gifts can be like a $1 folded shirts like I give you guys. There could be dollar coins, Sacagawea coins. There could be $2 bills. There can be simple things like that. But you let them know. Now, folks, Paul gave me the right answer. So just so you know, I got lots of these prizes up here, and everybody gives me the right answer, gets a prize. So I want to make sure everybody in this room gets a prize before we leave today. So this is going to be maybe a little different than you're used to. I don't want to do all the talking. I want you to be doing 50-50. I want to do some of the talking. I want you guys to do some of the talking. So there's going to be lots of gifts here today. So I let them know what? As soon as possible, I want to give out gifts, and a lot of them. Because then people realize, oh, this is different. He does want us to talk. Because every other presentation they've ever been to, guess who wanted to do all the talking? The advisor. But when you do it that way, they're like, oh, he wants me to talk. And then they'll start throwing it out there. Now, if Paul says, what if one guy wants to monopolize it and say, so Paul, you've already won $2. So we're going to have to give some other people a chance. Good answer, Paul, but we're going to give some other people some chance here. And is anybody going to mind that if I do that to Paul? If he's won a couple of times, I say, hey, we've got to give some other people a chance here. Good answer, Paul, but we're going to give some other people a chance here. That's how you handle it, Paul. Does that answer the question for you? Super. Good. So, guys, this is the way you get 80 to 100% appointment ratios. I guarantee it works. I've seen it work over and over and over for the last 7 years that I've been teaching guys to do this. It's not the keywords and tricky phrases in the seminar. It's the using their first name, giving them verbal pats on the back, making them feel special. That's what gets you the appointments, okay? Awesome. So when you've mastered Crib Notes Motive, your daily practice in MIPT and GOTS, not just with one-on-ones, but also with what? Not just with one-on-ones, but also with what? Workshops and seminars. Your 5-minute moneymaker and breakdowns, that's when you're going to get every client that comes to a seminar to make an appointment, and everybody that makes an appointment to move all their money to you. Make sense? Awesome. Well, thanks, everybody, for being on the call. You have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you all next week. Thanks, everybody.